It's Wednesday, October the 1st. Lake levels 917.3. Water temperature, pretty much throughout the lake still in the mid 70s. But, pretty much through the whole month of September and even, into August, lake level was, right at 916. But about a week and a half ago, we had a bunch of rain and it came up and they're still generating quite a little bit of water. And what that's done, it's put a lot of stain throughout the lake. I mean, it's got, pretty decent color down by the dam. The river arms really aren't dirty. The whole lake's got about the same stain to it. You get further up in the rivers, a little bit less visibility. But, kind of opens up the options. Right now, and it always is this time of year, it's just really tough fishing. The fish get into a transition. They can be anywhere from on the bank, 1 or 2 feet deep out to 50 foot deep. And to me, what couple days I've been out, been all about the shad, and it normally is in the fall. When you find the shad, you're going to find the fish. The fish get real active on the shad. Now, it'd be shallow shad, and shad out there over deeper water. I'll start out with the deeper bite. It's been real inconsistent as far as drop shot and football jig, but it seems like most consistent drop shot has been out over deep trees, 25 to 30 foot deep. Trees may be in anywhere from 50 to 100 foot of water. The football jig, wobblehead jig, it's not too consistent, but it seems like if you keep the boat in 30 to 35 feet of water, fishing a lot of main lake points, it's a good place to throw a football jig. Now, in the drop shot fish, it seems like bluff ends has been a little bit more consistent than long flat points. And if you're throwing a football jig, especially if you're down there by the dam, something you might want to try, especially if there's no wind, it's dead slick. This little jig I was using up in Wisconsin, I've been throwing it around here some too, but it's a little 3/8 ounce micro football jig. And on them days where it's real slick, I think you can get bites on the real small jig where a lot of times you can't get them on the football jig. So it's just, finesse style, 3/8 ounce. I throw it on a spinning rod, and I've got a little Zoom speed craw on there for a trailer. Anything in the green pumpkin, PBJ seems to work good. This one's got a little bit of chartreuse in it because the water was stained where I was fishing it up in the river. Another deep pattern, especially if you find the shad, is around some of these deeper docks. The spoon bite is still in play. And I'll throw several different spoons. It just depends how deep the fish are. But normally what you're looking for is you're looking for docks where the ends of the docks are anywhere from 40 to 80 foot deep out at the end of them. If it's got timber underneath them, it makes it even better. And they don't have to be out on the main lake. They can be back in the creeks. A lot of times you want to go into a creek and look for the big docks that stick out the furthest into the channel. And depending on how deep the fish are, if they seem like they're pretty deep down there, 30, 35 foot, I'll use a 7/8 ounce slab spoon, a Dixie Jet. If they're higher up in the water column, like say especially if the bait's up in that 5 feet to 20, 25 feet, I'll throw a flutter spoon. This one here is the worldwide one, James Watson come out with. This other one is a little bit smaller. It's a 5/8 ounce Dixie Jet. Now these got a lot slower fall to them. They'll stay in the strike zone a little bit longer. Like I say, if the fish are down there deeper, I want to use the 3/4 ounce to 1 ounce and get it down there as quick as I can. Now, first thing in the morning, there has been a shallow bite, but it seems like once that sun burns through and gets up there, the shallow bite kind of goes away. But whopper plopper, glide bait, and it seems like they're on rock transitions. You just got to cover a lot of water. The problem is you don't have a whole lot of time before that sun gets up real high. I hadn't been out on a cloudy day to see if it'll work all day, but you can throw a square bill up in there, but it seems like a Chopo, whopper plopper style bait and black or white, seems to be working a little bit better. Now, in shallow fish, either back in the creeks or up in the river arms on flats, there's shad all over the place. And every once in a while, you'll see occasional fish feeding through them. Now, there's several different baits you can throw, depending on the water clarity, but you can throw a little 3.3 swim bait, 2.8, and the shad are pretty good size. I'm not seeing gizzard shad, but I'm seeing, big threadfin shad, 3.5 inches long. So a 3.3 swim bait is good to work through them. My main baits for the shad up shallow have been a chatterbait and a square bill. I'm just throwing a jackhammer, either 3/8 ounce or 1/2 ounce, trying to run it through the shad and underneath them. And a lot of times on live scope, you can see a few fish underneath the bait. Now, they're really on the move, and you got to keep the trolling motor, moving pretty good. Just look for these pods of shad that got a couple fish underneath them. If there's any kind of cover up there shallow where it's like 8 feet or less, I'll throw a square bill. And if you've seen me talk about the square bill before, I always go to my favorite one. It's a Spro 165 citrus shad. Now, I'll throw other ones. If I'm going shallower, I'll throw a smaller one. Sometimes I'll throw a bigger one to get a little deeper. Fritz side baits will work real well. Something I can burn through the shad and cover a lot of water with, try to get a reaction strike. But, for the most part, the good thing about the stained water, whichever pattern you go, if you go deep or shallow, you almost got to commit yourself to it. You don't, right now I'm not getting a lot of keeper bites, especially if I go from shallow to deep. So, I would suggest you stay with one or the other. Another thing that is working shallow for me some is a finesse jig from a 1/2 ounce to a 1/4 ounce fishing boat docks. And I'm fishing shallow docks, anywhere from 15 foot to the walkway. I'm not getting a lot of bites, but I am getting some good keeper bites. And another thing to throw is a football jig out there where you spoon them docks. I talked about fishing the ones that come out where it's 50, 60 foot deep. Usually once you get in 2 or 3 stalls, the bottom will shallow up to anywhere from 40 feet or less. And a lot of times, if I'm not getting a reaction bite on the spoon, I'll take a 3/4 ounce football jig, pitch it up in the stall as far as I can get it up in there, feed line out, let it go to bottom, and just crawl it out of that stall. And I'll do that back in there to about 10, 15 feet. But if I'm actually flipping the finesse jig around docks, I'm looking for docks that are kind of by themselves, or 2 or 3 docks, where the front of the docks are only in 15 to 20 feet, and I'm fishing from the first stall all the way to the shoreline. If you get a bite or two, then you can go to the next dock and just try to key on the same depth that you got that bite in. But, for the most part, September and October to me is always the toughest fishing. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.